Thank you everyone for joining us today. Welcome to this new meetup organized by Tunis R User Group. You represent a volunteer-run organization. Tunis R User Group is a network, friendly support network for our users in Tunisia, but not only Tunisia, also worldwide. And you are a group composed of 3 passionate ladies about R programming. I'm Mune Bilaid, a business intelligence consultant, and I'm also an engineer basically in statistics and data analysis. Amalit Lili, who's also an engineer in statistics and data analysis and is working as a data science engineer. And Hediat Nani, who is also an engineer and a postdoctoral fellow at Pasteur Institute of Tunis. You are part of many R user groups communities, other ones. So today there is more than 8,000 R user groups worldwide in more than 80 countries. And you have a code of contact, so let's keep making this place as much as possible a welcoming space and community for everyone. You started the organization of a new series at Tunis R User Group. This is the one package per meetup series, and you focus mainly on data visualization R packages. Today you are so pleased to be hosting Dean Atterley and Verly van Limpet. So they will walk through the use of the colourPicker and bs4Dash packages in R. You are so pleased to have them today. So Dean has a background in computer science and worked in Silicon Valley before like falling in love with R. He's an R Shiny expert, and he's also a lead consultant and founder at Atalitech Ltd. So he wrote many popular packages for Shiny users, such as Shiny.js, TimeVis, Shiny Alert, and colourPicker. So I'm sure we'll learn a lot from you today. Also, you are so delighted to be hosting Verly, who is an entrepreneur and data scientist who gets excited about data and programming. She's another developer with a master's degree in data science and like multiple years of experience in the pharmaceutical market. And she's also a managing director and head of data science at Analytic Health, so a UK-based company. This is the program of the one package per meetup series. So if you have missed out our previous meetups, so about GG Animate, R package, and R2G3, I invite you to have a look at our YouTube channel, as so you share there all the recording videos. And our next meetup will be pleased to be hosting Thomas Lynn Pedersen, who is a software engineer at R Studio, and he will cover the exploration of tidy network data using the tidy graph in R. So be sure to be part of our meetup group, as normally you share there to be notified about the new meetups. As I told you, plan to record the meetup today. And if you have any question, just leave your question in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. And before you leave, we have a short feedback form. We'd be pleased to know your feedback after this session. Thank you all for your attention, and I will let Dean share his screen.
Thank you, Maya. So as she said, this is supposed to be the one package per meetup series, but because of me, it's actually going to be 2 packages today because I didn't really have a whole hour to fill with just one package. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Dean Atali, and I'm going to be presenting about the colourPicker package. Now the colourPicker package it actually has a few different tools in it, and most people are only really familiar with one of it, which is the color input for Shiny. But it actually has some other stuff in it that can be useful for anyone, even if you're not a Shiny developer. It's useful if you do anything to do with colors in R, such as making plots, and you need some help in deciding what colors to use. So I'll go over how these different tools relate to each other. So first I'll start with how colourPicker package came to be and what the core functionality of it is. So this is a Shiny app here. It's a very basic Shiny app. And this is something that a lot of basic Shiny apps do. It basically has a few different inputs and you can select what you want the plot to be. So for example, this is just the default empty cars data set. It's a Shiny app that lets you select what to put on the x-axis, what to put on the y-axis, and change the text size, and then you have a plot here. Now, when I started using Shiny, maybe 7 years ago, I noticed that a lot of times when I would build little apps like this, one of the things I would want to do is add a color selector. And the thing is that Shiny has a lot of different inputs. It has text inputs, it has date inputs, it has checkboxes, it has drop downs, it has radio buttons, has all these different inputs, but it didn't have a color selector, like a color input. So what people often had to do is, if I wanted to, for example, change the color from always being blue, if I wanted to make it an input, I would have to add a drop-down input called the select input. And I would basically just have to give it a few different options. So for example, here, if I run this code again, now I'll have an extra input with the color, and I can click on it, and the colors that I gave it, which are blue, red, and yellow, if I click on any of them, it'll change the color. So this worked fine initially, but it became annoying that every time I have to use a color, I have to write a select input and pass it the colors that I want to have as options. So I ended up developing a color input and I put it inside a package called colourPicker. So if I load colourPicker, I can now use a color input instead. And the color input looks just like any other Shiny input. So again, it takes an ID. Well, if you don't know Shiny, this might not make a lot of sense to you, but it takes an ID and a label. And then it takes also a default value. So let's say red would be the default. If I run that, now I have a colourPicker here. And when I change the colourPicker, my points change color. So this is the basics of the color input, which is kind of the core functionality of the colourPicker package. And the color input actually has quite a lot of functions to it. So for example, I could specify colors either by name. So for example, red, blue. You can use 3-digit hex values. So ABC, which would be the same as AA, BB, CC. You can also use RGB. So let's say if I want to make blue, RGB would be 00255. It also supports HSL. So it has all these features. If you're interested in seeing all of the different ways that you can specify colors, you can go to the colourPicker GitHub page, and there's a README here that shows everything. And what colourPicker does is it always returns the colors in a normalized way. So if I type 00F, which is blue, let's go 0F0, so that's green. When I click away, you'll see that it actually normalizes the value to be a 6-digit hex. One of the other features that it supports is that you can also choose transparent colors. So if I allow transparent, now there's an extra little bar here where you can do transparency. And if you have transparency, then now, for example, if you want to use RGB, instead of just RGB, you can do RGBA. So let's say we want transparent red, so we'll be 25500, and then 0.5 would be the transparency. So it supports that as well. And the other piece I want to show you about color inputs is that if you don't want to have this, this kind of infinite color scheme where you can select any color, if you want to limit it to a specific colors, then you can use the palette equals limited parameter. And when you do that, you only get certain colors that are choosable. And you can also provide it, there's another parameter called allowed calls. So you can provide it with a color list to tell it which colors you want to appear here. If you don't provide that, then by default, it uses 40 colors. So that's the color picker. This is the color inputs, and any Shiny app you build, you can use the color inputs to help you select colors. Now, let me just go back to the regular color inputs. This is the regular color input. Now, the package was initially centered around this. I'm just going to check the chat for a second because, okay, there's nothing for. If there's any questions, I just want to make sure the chat is a place for that. So a few months after I developed this, I was in college at the time. I was doing my master's, and my girlfriend at the time was also doing her master's. And while she was writing her thesis, I noticed that she was using R for her thesis. So all her code was in R. She was doing plots in R. And I noticed that whenever she was doing plots to include in her thesis, she would have like a huge chunk of code. And when she wanted to choose the colors for it, she would just run the same 100-line code 100 different times with just slightly different colors each time. So she would have a place where she would select the colors, and she would have a long list of colors, and she would tweak the colors a little bit, then rerun the code over and over and over again. And so I looked at that and I thought, hey, I can help with this. I just built a color picker in R. So why don't I build you a little tool to make it easier for you to choose colors? So that night I ended up doing that. And just to show you how that works, let's say this plot here, which is the same basic plot that I showed you in the Shiny app. It's a plot of the empty cars data set. Let's make it show MPG versus weight. Remove the color. We'll remove the font size. We don't need that. Now, let's say this is my basic plot that I have. Let's say that I want to color the points by the cylinder, by the number of cylinders. So what I would do is I would add into here an aesthetic where the color would be the number of cylinders. Right, so now we have the same plot, and the number of cylinders colors the points. Now, if I want to choose which colors to use, I can use the scale color manual, and I can provide it with a few values. So let's say green, blue, purple. Right, so this is just basic ggplot stuff. So now I could select which colors to use, green, blue, and purple. So what I saw her doing is I saw her constantly changing these values all the time. So in colourPicker, there's a function called it's called colourPicker. And you can provide it with a number. So in my case, I want 3 different colors. So if you provide it with 3, you get a little color picker here. And by default, it has 3 because I told it I want 3 colors. And then now here you have that same color picker where I can select the color, or I can also see all the different R colors that exist. These are all the named colors. Or if for some reason you want a named color and you know a similar color to what you want, you can go to this tab of find R color. You can select a color, and then it shows you what are the most similar named colors. So you can select one of those. Or you can just go to the any color tab and select absolutely any color that exists. And then you can do the same for the other 2 colors. So you can click on any of those, select the color, and then when you click done, you get a vector of the colors you chose. And of course, if you put that into a variable, you can say my calls. You can assign that into a variable, and then now, if I choose colors, that variable has my colors. So now I could replace this values with my calls, and it'll have those colors. So I showed this to her. I was very excited. I was like, hey, look, I built a little tool for you to select colors. And then she looked at me and she told me that this is useless because when she has a plot and she wants to choose the colors for it, it's not useful to just have a separate tool where she chooses colors and then take those colors and put them into the plot. That's not very efficient. So I told her, that's absolutely right. That is not very useful. So this is a lesson in why when you build a tool, you should not be the user of that. Well, if you build it for yourself, sure, you're the user. But if you build it for other people, always get user feedback because it's very likely that what you build sounds great to you, not very useful for your users. So the next step on top of that is I built something called a plot helper. So in colourPicker, there's a plot helper. And the way that works is if you provide it with the code for a plot and the number of colors, it does a very similar thing, except it also includes your plot in the color picker. So now I have the plot that I actually have here, and I have the 3 colors. These are 3 default colors. And the way that this works is that these colors that we have on top here, they actually go into a variable called cpCols. So that's just a name that I chose for that to be. And so if I use cpCols in the code, now the plot itself will update in real time to be the colors that are shown here. So let's say I want to change the green. I'll select green, and I'll just choose a different color. And then I can see how it looks. And then if I click done, then again, I get the colors that I chose. And now a little step on top of that is that if you have a long, script or like a lot of lines that generate a plot, and it's kind of inconvenient to put all that inside a function call, like I just did before, you could also just have your code inside an R editor. And wherever you need to use colors, you can replace it with, you can use cpCols, that same variable name from the add-in that you saw. So if I put cpCols here, I can select all of this plot code. And then if you go to the add-ins menu and you select plot color helper, it'll create that plot and it'll automatically have these colors that you chose. Now, it actually even tries to guess how many colors you need. So if I, for example, let me just close some tabs. If I choose a different variable to color by, let's say the number of carburetors, which I know that there's actually 6 of them, not 3. If I take this code and I run the plot color helper on it, it'll initialize with 6 different colors because there's actually 6 different carburetors. And just to show you another little trick, this is not just for my add-in, this is for any add-in. For any add-in in RStudio, if you want, you can also attach a keyboard shortcut to it. So what I did is actually attach the keyboard shortcut Control-H to the plot color helper. So I can just select this text, and you can't see my keyboard, but if I just press Control-H, it launches this. And now, so let's say this is my plot, or this is my plot, and I want to easily find the colors that I want to use for it. So what I would do is, these are the 6 default colors. I can change any of them. We'll make that pink. We'll make the second color, just so you'll notice, I'll make it black. I'll make the third one white. And then when I click done, so this is now the plot that I want. Of course, I can also change the plot in here. This is my code. But once I click done, it actually changes my script. So it actually created that variable cpCols with the colors I selected. And so now if I just run this code, I have that same plot here that I had in my add-in. So this is, this is what I want to show you basically for colourPicker. So colourPicker has 3 main things. It has the color input, which is a shiny input for selecting colors. It has the colourPicker add-in, which is just for selecting colors and creating a vector of colors. And it has the plot color helper, which you can select, you can highlight some code that creates a plot and then call the plot color helper, and it helps you select colors and see those colors applied in real time to your plots. There's more information if you want. If you go to the GitHub page, look at the README. But I'm definitely over the 10 minutes that I told Muna I would take. So if there's any questions I can answer, otherwise we can move on.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. Yeah, you have a question from Willy. So, ever thought about integration with the package squeeze? Not the package. This is Anadine, I think. Anadine, yeah.
So, do you know it, Dean? Squeeze?
No, I don't. No, I don't know it.
It's an add-in, and there you can build ggplots like with drag and drop things like that. So imagine it would be really cool that if you can build plots from there, that you can also immediately pick your colors with colourPicker. So maybe for the future.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. To be honest, all of this was developed years ago, like I think like 2016, and there hasn't been since then. There's only been maintenance mode. I haven't really been developing much since. So it's possible that there's new things. There's also some packages that help you create color palettes that kind of go well with each other. So I know that that's another thing.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of areas of improvement and other things that could be added, but this is what there is for now. But thank you.
Great.
You have another question for Thomas. Is there a procedure to enlarge an existing palette?
Yeah, sure. So here, let me take this one, for example. So again, I'll take this code. I'll make an add-in from it. Yeah, so you can click plus here to add more colors. You can use the trash icon to delete one. So for example, if I wanted to also have the color for the background, I forget the exact syntax for that in ggplot, but essentially, if I would have just added, I think it's something like theme background equals, I would just go like this, right? So like now that I have, so I know that my first 6, I would change this to be 1 to 6. And then I added another 7th color, and I would just use that 7th color in here. And I can just add with here. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, to increase the palette.
Yeah, so for example, if a color palette for the colorblind and would need, 1 more or 2 more colors, then what I have to do is specify the colors initially with a hex code and feed it to the color picker, and then I could add some more colors that would fit.
Yeah, so there's actually, so the color picker is actually very, very flexible. You can provide it with a list of colors. You can provide it with the number of colors. You can provide it just with code, and it'll guess how many colors. But whenever you're already in this Shiny app here, you can always just add more colors and just refer to them by index.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
And
thank you.
And there's another little piece of a feature that I added here. There's actually a lot of keyboard shortcuts. So you can also go through the colors with just right and left, or you can click on a number. Like if I click on 2 or 6 or 4, it selects that color. Spacebar creates a new color, and deletes a color. So just to make it a little bit easier, faster for you to go through these this list.
Yeah, this is so interesting. Last question for Rajit. Okay, is there any limit how many colors will be picked in plot color helper? Yeah.
No, I think you might be limited just by if you make like 100, it might start getting slow, but essentially you can add as many as you want. So.
Okay, nice. I think you are done with the questions. Thank you so much, Dean, for your time and for this contribution. I think it's fine. You can move to Verly. So Verly today we'll walk through the use of the bs4Dash package in R. The screen is yours.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Dean, for your color package. Yeah, I'll be talking about bs4Dash today. I'll get my presentation on the screen. Share it there. All right, can we all see that?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, so today I will be talking about building Shiny as a bs4Dash. So Dean already talked a bit about Shiny. I don't know how familiar you are with Shiny. This is quite a heavy Shiny tutorial about the package. So yeah, what are we going to talk about? First, I'll give a little bit of introduction so that you know who is talking to you, and a bit more about my company. Then a little bit more background about bs4Dash, so who developed it, what is it based on, and how can you use it. Then some main components and features, then how we use bs4Dash ourselves, because that's why I got invited initially, because I showcased our app that was using bs4Dash. Then I'll give a little coding demo, and then a wrap up, and the presentation will be shared afterwards, so you will also find some resources in that. So yeah, who am I? I'm a data scientist and an entrepreneur, as you already heard. I graduated as a data scientist from Tilburg University a couple of years ago. Then I worked at several companies as a data scientist. Eventually in 2019, I started my own company, a data science consultancy company. And there I met my current business partner, and in 2021, so earlier this year, we decided to have a partnership and run Analytic Health together. I'm a developer. I am mainly an R developer, but I also develop in Vue and Node. And yeah, that's a bit of very short about me. And then a bit about Analytic Health. So together with my business partner, Greg, and head of operations, Jana, we developed tools and applications for the healthcare sector. So we gather and we analyze data, healthcare data, in order to retrieve value from the data. And we believe that we can accelerate innovation in healthcare by giving people access to high quality data and giving healthcare professionals the tools they need to analyze the data. So we gather healthcare data from the UK on a daily basis. We are a UK-based company. But besides the data that's publicly available in the UK, we also have data, internal sales data from pharmaceutical companies. Most of the tools that we have, we develop in R. So for example, we have APIs that are written with R Plumber. We make reports in R using R Markdown, and we have Shiny apps. And we have two apps. One is Farming Analytics, the other is Farming Cloud Data. Farming Analytics is a Shiny application, and we use bs4Dash for that. And then we have a fairly new application, Farming Cloud Data, which is written with Argon Dash, which is from the same developer, but a different package. I'm not going to talk about that today. But Farming Analytics is more an app about analytics. It's really a dashboarding tool, and Farming Cloud Data is our UK healthcare data marketplace, and it's a place where you can download all kinds of healthcare related data sets in the UK. So a bit more about bs4Dash, the package that we are using for one of our biggest apps. A bit of background, it's not developed by me, unfortunately. I would be very proud if I did, but it's developed by David, another David from then the colourPicker package, and from our interface. So basically this package provides you with all main components to build your own dashboard style app. And it uses a template. It's built on top of a template, which is called the admin LTE3 template. And again, that template is built upon Bootstrap 4. The bs4Dash package, as the name already a bit suggests, because that is what the BS4 is about, is a Bootstrap 4 version of the Shiny dashboard package. And maybe if you developed like dashboards in the past in Shiny, you might be familiar with this package. But that is actually based on an older version of Bootstrap, and that's why bs4Dash came into play. So if you are currently having an app which is built in Shiny Dashboard, you can actually migrate now very easily to bs4Dash because all the function calls are exactly the same. The only thing that you actually need to do is change your library from Shiny Dashboard to bs4Dash. So that's super easy. It is a great looking package to build like the dashboard thing that you're seeing here on the screen, so that you have your cards, you have your main components, which I will come back to later. And by using Bootstrap 4, you open a whole world of web development. So a little bit about what is Bootstrap. Bootstrap is like the most popular framework and most widely used framework in the world. And it came into existence in 2011. So it has been around for some time, but then yet again, there are also a lot of versions of Bootstrap being released. And basically Bootstrap allows you to quickly design and customize responsive mobile first websites. So Bootstrap 4 was actually based on this mobile first principle. And that means that you start basically your app design or your product design from the mobile end. And when you're developing for mobile, you have way more restrictions than you have, for example, on tablet or desktop. So it basically allows you to think from like a small device to a bigger application. Bootstrap is free and open source, and it comes with all kinds of pre-built components, for example, alerts or navigation or buttons that you can use. So it actually makes it very easy to quickly develop apps. So as I said, bs4Dash works with Bootstrap 4, and Bootstrap 5 is the newest version of Bootstrap. Well, obviously, I spoken to David, the developer of the package, and I asked him what the future plans are for bs4Dash. David himself is thinking about a package which would provide a common API for Shiny Dashboard, bs4Dash, on top of the bs-lib package, where you can select your bootstrapped version. So this means that potentially there will also come some support for Bootstrap 5 or 6 or whatever comes thereafter. So that's great news. But for now, we need to stick with Bootstrap 4 for the time being. All right, so what are actually the components of a bs4Dash dashboard and what are some features? This is all the code that it needs to set up your very simple bs4Dash page. You have a user interface and a server, that's just shiny stuff. And then you have a dashboard page, as it's called in bs4Dash, where you will provide a title, a header, a control bar, a footer, and your body. Your body is basically your whole app theme. And we're going to see this live in action a bit later, but this is just to give you a general overview of the main components. And that looks like this. So these are the main components of bs4Dash. On the top, you have your navigation bar. You have there a couple of elements you already see, which I'm going to say a bit more about later. On the left, you have your sidebar, which is basically your menu. So you can have a menu items there, sub items. And on the right, you have another sidebar, which you can, well, let appear or disappear if you want. So this is basically the bare bones of bs4Dash. Then bs4Dash offers other things as well, like really cool features. For example, it has a built-in light dark mode toggle, and that's hot, you know, right now. Everybody wants to have their application in dark mode, and especially if you can switch, it's wonderful. Also, you have a full screen toggle, so then you can put your Shiny app actually on full screen size. It works with Fresh. Fresh is another package that can that helps you to incorporate your own custom theme to Shiny apps. And it also has the option to add a preloader using the Waiter package from John Kuhnem. Then you have all this awesome stuff like collapsible cards and elements, which I'm going to demo in a bit. And that's actually really cool, because have you ever seen a chat system in Shiny where you can actually chat? Well, I didn't before, but with bs4Dash you can, because it has the possibility to build an entire chat system using a function called user messages. So that's super cool. So how would you use this package? Because now it seems all like, okay, nice, abstract. How would you do that? So I want to show you how we use it for one of our biggest applications that's actually being sold to clients. People subscribe to it. So this is a production grade Shiny application. And it looks like this. This is our Farmly Analytics app. This is just a quick screenshot. The Farmly Analytics app provides you with UK market intelligence from all kinds of healthcare related data sources. Farmly Analytics provides insights and trends around prescriptions. So prescriptions that are being written in pharmacies in the UK. It provides information about pricing of medicines and drugs. And as you can see here, bs4Dash works perfectly on mobile too. So your Shiny app can actually have a mobile version as well. And yeah, that's basically what our app looks like. And as you can already see here, all the components that I mentioned, like the navigation bar, the sidebar, you will see them back here. And to give it a bit more illustration, I added a little video from it. So in this video, you can actually see that we indeed on the left have the sidebar, then on the top, we have the navigation bar, we have our dashboard body, then we have things like value boxes and tab boxes, and we have a dark light mode toggle. And when you hit that, you get completely dark mode. So that's super cool. If there are any questions, by the way, just ask in between and I'll answer them. I don't have an eye on the chat, so if there's anything there, please let me know.
Yes.
All right. So let's see what it looks like in coding. I have an example prepared. And that is this. So this is basically the bare bones of the example I prepared. Just to give you a heads up, this is also available on GitHub. The link I can share afterwards is a publicly available repo. So if you want to either follow along or maybe do it in your own time afterwards, after this presentation, you can just pull it and you can have some fun with it. So if I run this app, first quickly to see what we're working towards, then you actually missed the preloader, which is kind of a shame, but doesn't matter. Then you will get this. So here you will see our app with a couple of elements that I put in, so just some placeholder elements. We will see here our sidebar, in which I put some items and some elements. And we will see our right sidebar, which is here. And another cool thing that I want to show you a bit later is the skin selector, which basically a bit touches upon Dean's territory, where you can see like all the different colors, and you can select colors the way you want, so you can change your theme. And if we go look into code, we see here our main element, our dashboard page. So that's where basically your bs4Dash app starts. You can add a title to it. I call it the basic dashboard. It's, for example, our app is called Farming Analytics. Then you can add a preloader, and you actually didn't see that, but let me try if I can get it up anyway. It opens on a different screen in my end. It's kind of annoying. Anyway, you need to take my word for it. You can have a preloader, which normally if you have to wait for a Shiny app, sometimes it does take a couple of seconds to load all the stuff that you're doing there. So it is nice if you have like a nice loading element, what you're seeing here, using the waiter package, as I mentioned earlier. Then you can add your branding, and your branding is actually this part. So in your branding, you can add your own logo, and you can get a nice title, so make your app like more personalized. And you have all these kind of options. You can give it different colors. You can give it different elevation, a different styling. You can even put a link behind it. So if I click on it, I go to a website. Then we have here our sidebar. And basically in the sidebar, you always put your menu. So you can have like this whole menu of different tabs and different pages within your app. And in a menu are obviously menu items. So for example, this menu item 1, we're seeing here on the screen, and a menu item 2. And a menu item can also have sub items. So you can already see here, you can build whole pages and whole pagination basically of your web app. So instead of your app being like a single page and pretty static, you can have like a whole paginated app, really, where you can have multiple pages, different sections, and so on. So these are all your menus. Then the control bar is what is on the right hand side. So this is the left hand side, this is your menu bar, and this is your control bar. And here you have, they call it the control bar because you can have all kinds of settings in there, you know. Maybe you have certain kind of settings for your plots that you want to show to your users, and you can put them in there. You can put things in here like radio buttons, like selectors, whatever you want. And the nice feature, as I already mentioned, that bs4Dash offers is the skin selector, which allows your users to completely personalize the app experience and how it looks. So you can also like set the theme from light to dark if you want, change the colors. So that's pretty cool. And if you are thinking about putting it into production, obviously, and you have multiple users, it would be very nice if people can personalize this and then remember their choices. So the next time they log in, that they would get the same app back again. So that's all possible with this kind of stuff. So that's basically what we're seeing here. We're seeing here the control bar, which is the dashboard control bar. You can put a menu in there. We call these things pills, by the way. You have pills and tabs. They look a bit different, but it just means that you have actually different pages within your sidebar. So this is one page, and this is then the second page. On the first page, we have a control bar item here, which is then item 1. And we have here our radio buttons. We have here our select input. And this is our skin selector. And as you see, it's just a little piece of code for like the whole stuff that you're getting here. So it's super easy to implement. Then another element, which I didn't really mention, was the footer. Most of the pages have a footer with their copyright in it, with the year, with URLs going to external websites, that kind of stuff. So that's also something that you can do. And then these extra features are accordions. So we're seeing here in the body, in dashboard body, so that's this whole area. We can have something like accordions, and accordions are basically collapsible items and cards. So that's really cool. Like you can have a whole list of items, but sometimes if you display the list in a full blown to the user in the first glance, then it might be quite overwhelming. So with this kind of accordion, you can just collapse that information and let only show information on the screen that people want to see at that moment. So that's the accordion and the accordion items. Then we have a box here. That is this whole stuff. And the box is basically a card, and you can put things on it. And it's quite nice way to organize your content. For example, you can have on such a card or a box, you can have a single graph or a table. It just helps you to organize your content to have it in like one place. These boxes, you can collapse them, you can expand them, you can delete them, and then they're programmatically, you can let them reappear if you build it in. But you can also do this kind of cool stuff like getting badges on it. So if you have a new feature in your app, for example, I want to display to the users, hey, this is new, check this out. You can have a nice badge on it saying that it's new, or giving alerts or doing things like that. And you can also have like these drop-down menus in here. So for example, if you have a graph here, you could say, okay, this could be a settings button, and you can say things like, change this or change that, or if you're looking at the cars data set, for example, show me the number of cylinders, or all that kind of stuff. And then here you have like a similar kind of button you can use, which actually, as you all can see, that it's quite similar to this kind of bar. You can also have such a bar in here. So all these kind of options allow you to customize whatever you are going to put in such a box, which is really nice. And the code is pretty straightforward. Most of the elements work kind of the same. There's very good documentation on the bs4Dash package. So there are also quite extensive examples that you can use to fully customize your app. And this is for the waiter, which I actually do want to show you. Look. So normally if you start up your app and you restart your app and show it the first time, you can show custom waiter. And that's just a nice loading screen that you can display, let's say for, I don't know how many seconds you want, and then you can let it disappear. So it gives you also the time to load elements in your app while people are looking at something more pleasing than like things being loaded. Nobody likes to look at that. You can even customize the waiter, the loading screen with messages or with images. Even if you're going like nuts, you can put a video in there or something, I don't know. You can make it as fun as possible. So and that's basically very quickly in a nutshell what bs4Dash is about. I can imagine that if I blitzed through this code, I can imagine that it's quite overwhelming, especially if you're not like super familiar with Shiny. But please pull the repo. You can just look it up here or click on the link afterwards, and you can just play around with it a bit. Change stuff yourself, learn something about Shiny. It's it's super fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, this is so useful and yeah, pretty cool. I have a question from Yusuf. Does it provide authentication page and multiple access levels for different user rights?
Yeah, well, that's something that you have to take care of yourself. bs4Dash is a package for the user interface mainly. And while there are some server-side things you can do with it, it is to build a user interface. So the server logic, like people logging in, people having different access rights, that's something that unfortunately you have to take care of yourself.
Great. So Clever is asking how to add login page in bs4Dash.
Well, that again is something that you have to build in yourself. That's not built in because it's completely server logic. Look, if you're want to have a login mechanism for your app, you should either take, and especially for production grade apps, you should either take a look at solutions like RStudio Connect, which has that built in for you, or you can build it yourself. And that means that you have to set up your own database, do your own password management, and that kind of stuff. So that's a whole, we can have like 3 separate presentations about that, but that's not coming with bs4Dash, no.
Yeah, so he's also wondering about something else, saying that when I plot with just ggplot2 and switch to dark mode, everything goes well. But if I use plotly and change to dark mode, the plot didn't change. So any suggestion to work with plotly?
Yeah, I do have a suggestion, because we are not using plotly in our farming analytics app, but we are using high charts.
Mm-hmm.
And there we had the same issue, that when we switched to dark mode, that the actual colors didn't change correctly. You can actually observe when you click on this button, because this button is just as everything is shiny, has an input. I think this is actually called custom input 1. It has the label of that, and you can observe a change in that. So meaning that if you observe a change in this input, you can build your plot differently to fit dark mode, for example. That would be a solution.
I hope that's clear for you. Clever. Anyone else has question, is wondering about something? Don't hesitate to ask, please. Okay, you are welcome. Fine. Yeah, so so then it's saying I think ggplot recently had an update where the plot automatically tries to adapt to the background of the shiny app. Yeah, it could be. I would guess okay, that this is why dark mode works with ggplot. So yeah, that could be.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be really nice. I can also quickly show what it looks like in our app. So in our farming analytics app. So then you could also see like bs4Dash live in action. There we have high charts, as I mentioned, and if we switch to dark mode there, we observe basically the change in input, and we make, for example, text labels white and stuff, because it's not looking nice if you're on dark mode and the labels of your app look black. So if we switch here to dark mode, you will see that the graphs actually reload and get white labels. So even if the package doesn't necessarily work with dark mode yet, you can make it work.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, great. I think you are done with the questions. I can't see any more questions. Thank you all for your attention and for attending this meetup. Hope to see you in the next meetups. Thank you again, both Verly and Dean, for your time and for your contribution to our Tunis R User Group communities. And that's all. I wish you good night. So for me, it's good night.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for coming along, Abitrajit. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.